Kyle Neddenriep, and then you start joining us now. Kyle, I was just talking about there's so much to look forward to this weekend as far as games, and I am. But I'm going to personally be taking in. I'm going to go down to Southridge, and I'm going to watch Jeffersonville and Evansville Harrison with Sharon Wilkerson, the former teammate of Pat Graham, who was on the Harrison staff. They met earlier this season because I had them on the show, and they're going to be on again this Friday. But how ironic that they're playing twice this season, first of all.
Yeah, that should be a good game. I think I've seen both those teams play, and I never really root for any team necessarily, but was kind of hoping they would advance because I thought they were the two best in their sectional. So, that sets up to be a really good game at Southridge. And I forget who's the other game being played there.
Oh man, you would ask me that. I can tell you that in just about 2 seconds.
Oh, Bossy and Southridge. That should also be a really good game.
Yeah, so you've got an excellent regional there. I still weird. I was looking through all of that yesterday and looking at the Seymour regional, and I'm like going, okay, yeah, this is just looks odd. These 4 teams that'll be playing there, but it's the new age, so it is what it is. But a lot of good games, or should they all will be good this weekend probably. First of all, you've got what's going on between Kokomo and Fishers. Is that the marquee matchup?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that probably, the winner of that game, I think, would be the favorite to come from the north side of the bracket in 4A. I mean, who knows, how that shakes out exactly. But, after Fishers came through that sectional and then, everybody knew Kokomo would probably be waiting for them. They were the pretty prohibitive favorite in their sectional. So, yeah, I would say, I mean, and Fishers really beat them pretty handily the first time they met, but I think it'll be much closer this time. Flory, I think, only took 3 or 4 shots that first game, and just kind of they didn't play great. So I think they're playing a lot better, or they are. Not that I think they definitely are at this point in the season. So, I think that'll be a much better game than we saw the first time they played, and Fisher still has the advantage, I think, at the guard spots and, just overall depth, I would say. But Carson Rogers has come on so strong for Kokomo that they kind of have a twin tower situation with him and Flory. I mean, Rogers is only 6'6", but, you put him next to Flory and those two can really play well off each other. And, that's Flory's tough enough in anyway, but you'd put another guy beside him who can score the way he can. And it's pretty good combination. So really interesting matchup. I think basically all of Kokomo will be there. Fishers had a good crowd for the Noblesville sectional. And, I think they'll bring quite a few, especially with the week lead up to it. So, it'll be great. I mean, and also Liberty Christian, Seton Catholic, they'll get to play in front of, probably the biggest crowd they've ever played in front of in the early game with, I'm guessing all of Kokomo coming in for that game too. So just get their seats. So that'll be interesting too in that 1A, the other 1A game. So yeah, the regional setup still kind of, it takes your brain a while to adjust to the regional. You're always so used to like, all right, 10 a.m., 12, and then play at night. And then it's going to take me a while to get used to this new setup. It's just basically the semi-state sort of in the, they're basically flipped around, but it's still kind of weird to me.
Yeah, there's a couple teams that have managed to get to this level. Some are in the smaller classes. Oldenburg Academy at 13-11 in Class A have made it to the Martinsville Regional. So they've got a shot to go on, which obviously, I don't know. They could have played a tougher schedule since they're a smaller school. And I noticed there was one other team that I can't remember who it was up there that was like 15-14 that has managed to make it to the regional as well. Or no, at Fort Wayne Concordia at 14-12, taking on a 21-6 Delta team, number 7 Delta team.
Yeah, there's some definitely Marquette Catholic is 11-15. I think they're the only under 500 team, but they always play, being where they are, they play a lot of bigger schools. John Glenn, I believe they were 13-13, but they were the sectional champ last year. lost a lot, but so you have a few of those teams that are play tough schedules and have quite a few losses. Indianapolis, Washington, who I wrote about this morning, they're 14-12, but again, they play a really tough schedule in the city, obviously, and have played well here at the end of the year. So they'll play Guerin Catholic, who they played pretty close for a half last time they played each other earlier this season. But Guerin, obviously, I don't know if you saw that play, but just a miraculous finish against Brebeuf to win that game in double overtime. So, that'll be an interesting game too. Guerin made it to the state finals last year. I think they're probably would be the pick to do it again. I would think in the north side of that bracket, or actually south side of that bracket. So, we'll see. I mean, it's these regional games will be interesting. I think there's a lot of really good ones. Tipton and Wapahani in 2A. That should be a fantastic game. That's probably one of the best. I actually had that as second best behind Kokomo and Fishers because, man, both those fan bases are very, very rabid fan bases, and I'm sure we'll fill Lapel's gym on Saturday. So there's a lot of good ones out there. Scottsburg, Batesville should be a good one. There's a lot of good ones.
Now, they will probably go a long way in partially filling that cavernous Seymour gym there with those two schools, with Lawrence or those communities being close by.
Yeah, I agree. That'll be a fun one there at Seymour. Scottsburg's a team that they were, I think they were ranked number 1 towards the end of the season. Maybe in the last poll, I can't remember. I know I think they lost to Jennings County and then dropped a little bit. But Eric Richardson, their coach there, is kind of they've kind of been building for this season. It's obviously a fan base that really gets behind, supports their team, and they got a good group. They got 3 guys who can really play, and they won the regional last year and lost to Guerin Catholic in the championship game of the semi-state. So that's a matchup you could potentially see again. And then of course the IHSAA will draw the semi-state on Sunday. So you kind of find out where the teams will go and who they play exactly. So, that's a matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that game again with the chance to go to the state finals on the line. And maybe Scottsburg gets them this year. That could be interesting. But first, they got to get through Batesville, who, they're obviously a very traditionally strong program as well. And Aaron Garrett's been there a long time. They've won a lot of games at Batesville during his tenure there.
I want to get to the 4A games here in a second as quickly as possible, but number 4 in Class A, number 4 Christian Academy taking on Bar Reeve. Is that Christian Academy of New Albany?
Yeah, that's Southern Indiana. Their Christian Academy. They got a kid named Joshua Renfro who's really a good player. So yeah, they're one of those teams too. I think and they really had to survive a tough couple sectional games. South Central down there had a really good year, and they beat them in a close game in the championship. And then Rock Creek Academy, they always seem to creep up and win in the sectional and move on. But they had to go to overtime with them and beat them. But yeah, Renfro, really good player. I saw him a little bit in the summer, and he's gone on. I can't remember how many points he had. He was up for our Player of the Week award and had a really good sectional tournament. But yeah, they play Bar Reeve. That'll be a really good game. Bar Reeve, of course, they went 5 overtimes with Orleans and survived that sectional too. So 2 teams that came out of really tough sectional draws.
The Renfro kid from Christian Academy of New Albany. He's one of the top 3-point shooters in the state. Is his game one that would translate to the Division I level? I have not seen him play, so I don't know where he is. I've watched a few highlights, and he sure looks like he can shoot the ball. But anytime you play on a Class A team, you kind of wonder about competition.
Yeah, you do. But I mean, he's 6'2". He's only a junior, so there's some time left. He looks, he's kind of got a long, I don't know what his wingspan is or necessarily, but he maybe looks a little bit longer than he is, or as far as his height goes. But yeah, I mean, he's had some really good games this season. Actually, he had, looking here on our player of the week, he had 43 points against Rock Creek in that game. So, he's a guy I don't know necessarily what his recruiting looks like, but certainly can get it in the basket, and at 6'2", I don't, that's maybe fringe if you're not quick enough to defend or whatever. But, and I'm not saying he's not. I just, you're not 6'5", so that would be my question, I guess. I'd have to see him play a little bit more, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely a guy who can stroke it. And again, I mean, it seems like every time we talk, I mean, you talk about this junior class is just so loaded with players. And he's certainly another one, and it'd be fun to see what he does this weekend against Bar Reeve.
Yeah, Bar Reeve, of course, a traditional powerhouse, I guess you'd say, in Indiana high school tournament basketball, because their name is always there at tournament time. In Class 4A, East Chicago Central and Mishawaka up north going at it, 22-14, 19-17. That should be a great matchup there in Michigan City. Also, you've got Crown Point and Warsaw, so all those northern teams battling it out.
Yeah, East Chicago Central's kind of been the team I watched them a couple times on film, on streaming, and I was felt like they had a good chance to get through. They had a tougher sectional maybe than some of the other northern teams did. They had to get through Merrillville, had to get through who was it in the championship game? They had to beat Munster in a close game. So Munster always very physical, tough team. Dominic Murphy's their main guy. Their junior, another junior who's really good. He averages, I think, 21 and 10. So he played in that futures game last year, and really like his game. I think they're a team that I think they could probably get out of. They should. I would think they should beat Mishawaka. Mishawaka upset South Bend Riley last week in the sectional championship in overtime. I really like that Riley team. So obviously Mishawaka playing better, but that East Chicago Central team, I wouldn't be completely shocked to see them playing, a Kokomo or Fishers, the chance to get to the state championship potentially. You also have some good teams up there too, like Fort Wayne, which they're playing in the Logansport Regional, and they're the defending regional champ, and most of that team, including Javon Lewis, who's their starting point guard, is back, and they should beat Fort Wayne Northside. They beat them handily during the season, but again, rivalry game. Two Fort Wayne teams playing in Logansport. Having to make the drive over there, but both of them have to. So it's kind of equal for both sides. So that'll be. I would think Fort Wayne would survive that, and I've seen them play a couple times. They're kind of similar to an Indianapolis type of team where they got some decent size. They're very athletic. They matched up well. They played Ben Davis really tough for a half, actually led them at half, and then it kind of got away from them in the second half. But, I like their personnel, and they're another team, I think, on that north side that could give, Kokomo or Fishers or whoever else a pretty good game.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned over at Newcastle. That should be the game of the weekend. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, but on paper, number 4 Kokomo and Flory Badunga taking on number 1 Fishers without Jalen Harrelson. Can you imagine if they had Jalen Harrelson? I mean, they would probably be undefeated and untouchable.
Yeah, they almost are anyway. So you just add that on top of it. I mean, yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, maybe you wouldn't have had some of these other guys kind of step into bigger roles. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know what that would look like. But they looked really good in the summer, to be honest. When they still had Harrelson in June. So I can't imagine it would be that much different. You just add a top 15 player in the country on top of it. So yeah, it's hard to believe that they are 25-1, to be honest with you. I wouldn't have thought that going in. I thought they would still be really good because I knew, they're one of the most, I would say, deep teams as far as, you basically have 1 through 9 on their team who can maybe not beat you in every way, but who can add something to the table. And, like Justin Kirby, who's not known as a big time scorer for them, he steps up and hit 3 threes against Noblesville, and including one that was just, huge to put him up by 4 in that cauldron of an environment. I mean, he just stepped up and knocked it down like it was nothing. And, so they just have guys up and down, probably the deepest team that's left. So, yeah, it is surprising from that standpoint, but we knew they had good players. I don't think anybody thought they'd be 25-1 and be ranked number 1 for sure.